This is my night. Have 47,289 power rank, which is going to be the current maximum power rank achievable as of September 2023. Today, I will be sharing my own personal build going from equipment, gem, star shard, and just going to be explaining all of my reasoning behind all of these items. Keep in mind that these are going to be stuff that I personally like to use and things that I like to do, which is going to be speed farming dungeons and low to mid delving. With all that being said, this is the end game speed farming night build. Thank you for 4.8k subs. Now let's go into 4.9k. Also, make sure to drop a like, it does help me out more than you think. Here's going to be the current stats of my night. Keep in mind that I'm sitting at 815 Trove Mastery, Geo Mastery 100, I do have every single dragon available in the game, I am a part of a club with maxed out fixture, which all of this will alter my stats and just give me a little bit of stats here and there, including power rank. With a maxed out crystal level 4 equipment with all of my main stat on how weapon and phase will be movement speed and attack speed. Attack speed mainly because the knight basic attack is really good and movement speed is going to be mandatory for any speed farming class, which is what I personally like to do. As for my secondary stat is going to be magic find on all pieces of gear as well, mainly again because I do speed farm, so I'm getting as much drop as possible because of magic find. I used to have physical damage on my face, but this was before the Cosmic Primordial Dragon got introduced, and now with the Cosmic Primordial Dragon getting introduced I really don't need the extra physical damage since I don't use a damaging ally, which I'll get more into that in a bit. I also don't need maximum health on hat and face because I do have 2.7 million HP. As for my ring, it's also going to be crystal level 4 with magic find and the overcharge hidden effect. Magic find once again because I really don't need any of the other stats, I don't need energy regeneration since I don't spam Spirit Squire, and the other stats are not as helpful. I already have 100% critical hit, over 50 jumps and all of that. So magic find is going to be pretty much the obvious option. And overcharge as my hidden effect because it is going to be something that I would recommend on any night to use, especially if you're looking for speed farming. It's a very easy plus 25 flat movement speed buff that you can just proc it whenever you want with no cooldown. And since you will be using Spirit Square quite a lot, not only to increase your movement speed but also to kill world bosses and gain speed momentum. My ally is going to be Star Rabble. This is one of the allies that you can get from the Star Shard, which you can get it right here. This ally will grant a flat 8 movement speed and also a plus 30 movement speed buff when a nearby enemy dies. I will take this over Scorpius because I really don't need the extra damage that Scorpio grants me, so the extra movement speed from Star Rabble is just much more efficient for my knight than just using Scorpius. Obviously, of course, if you need the damage, then Scorpius will be just better. My banner is going to be the Uber 10 upgraded permanent torch or the Enchanted Torch, which is going to be the one that actually has the physical damage, Flask capacity, and the movement speed as part of my stats. This is by far the best physical damage banner in the entirety of the game, granting damage, 5 extra Flask capacity and a flat 10 movement speed, which is everything that you want especially for a speed farming character. As my food I normally just use the free range electrolytic crystals, mainly because I do have way too many of them and I don't need to use the premium foods from fishing because those are the strongest food in the entirety of the game and I can craft quite a bit of them, but I really don't need for the content that I just use them, which once again is going to be speed farming dungeons and low to mid delving. So for the most part, you will be seeing me use the free range electrolytic crystal. 300 light, very easy to obtain, and it also grants some extra stat like Flask capacity. My emblems are going to be the Martial and the Trailblazing emblem. Martial because of damage and I use Flask literally all the time, so Flask becomes like essentially a free damage button when you do have Martial active, and the Trailblazing emblem is because it is a flat 20 movement speed for 10 seconds with no cooldown. It is something that you should be just using all the time, especially if you're a speed farming character, and it is just too good to pass out. Speaking of just using Flask capacity, Flask is going to be the Conjurer's Crucible Vial, and this should be pretty obvious. If you saw my stats, I do have over 14.8 thousand magic find, and considering that you do get Flask for every magic find trigger with no cooldown, it pretty much just allows me to just spam Flask every single dungeon or every single world boss that I do encounter. And it also just keeps helping me just maintaining Trailblazing Emblem active all the time. My subclass is going to be the Tier 9 Personal Song Bard subclass. Tier 9 means that it is a subclass for a 40,000 power rank character. Personal Song is the best endgame speed farming subclass, granting a percentage movement speed increase for 3 seconds on a 15-second cooldown. This is not only a short cooldown, this is also the strongest movement speed buff that you can actually obtain from a subclass. And in tier 9 it is 20%, which is a lot considering that at max movement speed this could just increase your movement speed by another 40 to 50 extra movement speed, which is quite a lot considering that once again it does have a short 15 seconds of cooldown and a 100% proc chance whenever you do hit an enemy, which works perfectly if you're building speed momentum. And lastly on my loadout is going to be the Volatile Bounder mount, which I still believe it is still the best mount in the game, granted the fastest vertical movement speed. I would probably still say it is better than the post Troubles with Titles update Cosmic Primordial Dragon with its own super jump, because Volatile Bounder just gives better control and it is just faster in terms of vertical mobility. Either way, this is the personal mount that I use, and that's my loadout. This is what I like to call the standard endgame speed farming build, and which will work for most classes in the entirety of the game. If you're using this for most classes, you're going to just be able to speed farm quite well. Now, onto the gems. My gem loader is going to be a 5499 build with full light. To explain what that means, it means that I have 5 rolls/pearls or large upgrades on physical damage and 4 critical damage on my Empower, Fire, Water, and Air gems, and 9 physical damage and 9 critical damage on my lesser Fire, Water, and Air gem. And to quickly explain what are going to be the gem rolls is that whenever you do get a gem from level 5, 10, and 15, you're going to get a large upgrade randomly selecting one of your 3 stats, if obviously the gem already had all of those 3 stats before the large upgrade. And that large upgrade is going to be indicated as a little pearl above the stat whenever you do see that gem in the gem forge. And the gem build is just going to be all of the large upgrades across all of my Fire, Water, and Air gem, starting with Empower gem with damage and critical damage, and then lesser gems with damage and critical damage. And that's just the basics of gem builds. If you want more explanation, I do have a full gem video in the description down below. As for Empower gem abilities, I do have Explosive Epilogue because burst damage, and honestly, there isn't really good alternative outside of Explosive Epilogue, so I just use this one. It does help out in occasion against 3-star bosses. I also do have Pirate Disc because extra movement speed and extra damage is the best Empower gem ability in the entirety of the game. It works with every single build that you do want. Class gem because I find it better than not using the class gem for speed farming in general. And Vampire Vanquisher for my Cosmic because again more movement speed. And that's just going to be my full entirety of my gem build. Now onto the Star Shard. Keep in mind that I do have all 40 Celestial Spheres unlocked, so my Star Shard is just going to be only if you do have all 40 nodes available. So my Star Shard build is going to be balanced for all of the classes, including magic damage characters. It has the maximum movement speed that you can achieve, it has both close to maximum physical and magic damage, maximum light, and good essential abilities like the OP Life Leash and the 4-hour extra damage buff that you do get after you do defeat a Sunder Uplands 5-star boss. Since I know I'm going to get asked on what you should be using on the Star Shard, I always go for the Life Leash first because obviously it's super easy to obtain and it is literally the strongest Life Leash in the entirety of the game. I made a whole video regarding the Life Leash if you want to go ahead and check it out. It's extremely overpowered and it overshadows literally every single Life Leash in the game. Anyways, after that I will just be saying then go for the stat that you do need most at that moment. If you need damage, then go for damage first. If you don't need the extra damage, then you can just go with movement speed. Light is the only stat that I will say to get it after you get one of the other 2 stats, either movement speed or damage. And that's just essentially going to be everything that you should be going for your nodes. I just went directly into movement speed first because I didn't need the damage, then I went for damage, and then I went for the extra stats like light, and then the magic damage for the last nodes because I had the extra Celestial Spheres. But I just went for movement speed, physical damage, light, and lastly magic damage for most of my characters. And yeah, that's going to be my 40 node Star Shard build, and that's my full entire loadout that I do have on my knight. Obviously, this is not the top #1 damage or optimal build for all situations. This is just a speed farming build that works on all things that I do or need to do on the knight, which is mainly just over 11 and delving up to around a depth of 150. If you want to copy this build, then feel free to do so. Or if you want to use it as a foundation for your own personal build, which is something that I would just recommend, then do that as well. But if not, hopefully this gives you a perspective on what do I personally like to use on the knight. Thanks for watching.